Good day. Welcome to today's live stream. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment as you see fit. Today, we're going to go through a few articles. We're a little bit behind. We're just going to go through them real quick and cover them. And hopefully it works smoothly with the new streaming software. All right. First, we're going to do favorites. Okay, today's favorite articles for the Wall Street Journal are: number one, Trump administration asks states to be ready for vaccines by November. 2, COVID-19 deaths significantly reduced by use of steroids. 3, U.S. debt to exceed size of economy next year, a post-World War first. 4, South Dakota cowboy who won $232.1 million Powerball lists $41.15 million ranch. 5, the pandemic making college students question the price of their education. If you would like to see me covering this content, please comment below. Today's most popular Wall Street Journal's articles are: Law enforcement kill Portland shooting suspect. 2. South Dakota cowboy who won $232.1 million Powerball lists $41.15 million ranch. 3. Opinion: I was never Trump, not anymore. 4. Stocks fall in another volatile session. 5. SoftBank's bet on tech giants fueled this summer's Powerball market rally. Today's most popular Wall Street Journal articles are: 1. Law enforcement kill Portland shooting suspect. 2. SoftBank's bet on tech giants fueled this summer's powerful market rally. 3. Oil industry is fading away in land of the world's richest reserve. 4. Car sales are down almost 20%, but the prices are setting records. 5. Stocks fall in another volatile session. Let me know if you want me to cover any of this content in the comment section below. Today's most popular Wall Street Journal articles are: 1. Jacob Blake shooting. What happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin? 2. Who is Kyle Rittenhouse and what happened in the Kenosha shootings? 3. In Portland, this man is fatally shot in another night of unrest. 4. Warren Buffett and $300,000 haircut. 5. Opinion: California is coming for you. Let me know if you want me to cover any of this content in the comment section below. Today's most popular Wall Street Journal articles are: 1. Portland shooting suspect identified as Antifa supporter. 2. Jacob Blake shooting. What happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin? 3. Who is Kyle Rittenhouse and what happened in the Kenosha shootings? 4. Opinion: California's radical indoctrination. 5. NBA job offers dry up. Let me know if you want me to cover any of this content in the comment section below. Today's most popular Wall Street Journal articles are: 1. Trump visits Kenosha amid a clash over race relations and public safety. 2. Mnuchin urges Congress to pass more stimulus funding. 3. Portland shooting suspect identified as Antifa supporter. 4. Jacob Blake shooting. What happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin? 5. The key to preventing COVID-19 indoors. Ventilation. Let me know if you want me to cover any of this content in the comment section below. Good day. Today's most popular Wall Street Journal articles are: 1. Trump administration asks states to be ready for vaccines by November. 2. COVID-19 deaths significantly reduced by users of steroids. 3. U.S. debt to exceed size of economy next year, a post-World War first. 4. South Dakota Cowboy, who won 232.1 million Powerball lists, 41.15 million ranch. 5. The pandemic is making college students question the price of their education. Let me know if you want me to cover any of this content in the comment section below. Today's most popular Wall Street Journal article is 1. Law enforcement killed Portland shooting suspect. 2. South Dakota Cowboy who won 232.1 million Powerball lists 41.15 million ranch. 3. Opinion, I was never Trump, not anymore. 4. Stocks fall in another volatile session. 5. SoftBank's bet on tech giants pulled this summer's powerful market rally. Let me know if you want me to cover any of this content in the comment section below. Okay, now make sure to like this stream, comment, and we're going to cover an article from earlier this week right now. Here it goes. Okay. Well, here we go. Financial firms fail to own up to advisors' past misdeeds. Sounds interesting. Let's look at the website.
Financial firms fail to own up to advisors' past misdeeds. New streamlined SEC disclosure meant to aid investors often leaves them in the dark. By August 29, 2020, 7 a.m. ET in July, millions of American investors received a new government-mandated form from their financial planners that required advisors to disclose past misdeeds. But hundreds of the firms didn't tell the full truth, a Wall Street Journal analysis has found. The Securities and Exchange Commission finalized the form last year at a maximum of 4 pages. The aim was to provide ordinary investors with a simple way of evaluating financial advisors by asking and answering a handful of basic questions about matters including fees, misconduct, and conflicts of interest. In a marketplace where existing disclosures were long and complex, investors have often been victimized when brokers with a record of misbehavior haven't clearly reported that history. Called a Customer or Client Relationship Summary, or Form CRS, the disclosure was a linchpin of the agency's high-profile effort to ensure that financial advisors act in their clients' best interest. This followed a battle over the Labor Department's effort under the Obama administration to craft a rule that placed a fiduciary responsibility on many financial advisors. Markets, a free markets primer packed with news, trends, and ideas, plus up-to-the-minute market data. In November 2018, SEC Chairman Jay Clayton called the pending disclosure a clear and concise document that would help consumers decide whether to work with an investment professional. No existing disclosures provide the level of transparency and comparability that the relationship summary will provide, he said last year. Instead, the new forms, which firms had to file by June 30th, often contradict longer disclosures on the SEC website, the Journal's analysis found. At least 1,300 brokerage and financial advisory firms incorrectly stated on the new document that neither they nor their financial professionals had legal or disciplinary histories, the Journal's analysis showed. That is about 20% of the roughly 6,200 firms in the analysis that reported they had no past blemishes. They include a firm that state regulators found had misrepresented and improperly disclosed fees, as well as firms where employees were fined by regulators for allegedly committing forgery, impersonating customers, or selling unsuitable investments. Only about 1,800 firms, nearly one quarter of the roughly 8,100 reviewed, disclosed past problems. Undisclosed, nearly 1,300 financial firms failed to disclose blemished records of about 2,300 employees on a new SEC form. Unreported infraction source, WSJ analysis of CRS disclosures notes, some individuals have multiple disclosure types. Some categories not shown. Disclosures through June 30th, 2020. 1,592, 320, 318, 307 customer dispute employment separation after allegations. Criminal Regulatory and SEC Committee said on July 27th that initial reviews have identified cases where the forms lack disclosures. A spokeswoman for the agency said staff members have observed areas where disclosure may be inaccurate or incomplete, and that the agency's examiners will formally review the filings to ensure they are accurate and not misleading. One of the questions each firm must answer: do you or your financial professionals have legal or disciplinary history? The SEC's instructions stipulate that firms must respond yes if they or their advisors have disclosed any of several problems, including regulatory penalties, legal disputes with customers, or terminations by firms where they used to work. However, about 80 firms in the journal's analysis didn't answer either part of the question. The journal also identified 54 firms claiming to have a clean history on the new form that told the SEC otherwise on annual registration documents, and 26 other firms have adverse corporate disclosures on advisorinfo.sec.gov, a public search tool provided by the agency. Nearly 1,300 firms failed to indicate that any of their current employees had disclosures elsewhere on the SEC's own website. All told, the journal identified about 2,300 individual employees with disclosures that their firms failed to reflect on the new form. About 70% of those had customer complaints. Roughly 300 had disclosures of regulatory action against them. A similar number had criminal histories, and about as many had left previous employers amid claims of misconduct. Form CRS was supposed to cut through the dozens of pages of other disclosures and ought to summarize them accurately, so this kind of inconsistency strikes me as a huge fail. Nicole Boysen, business professor, Northeastern University. The journal's analysis excluded advisors whose only disclosures involved personal financial problems, which don't always have to be reported on the new form. Financial Services International Corporation of Edmonds, Washington, failed to report in its relationship summary that the firm had run-ins with regulators. Those disclosures are mentioned in a longer document on advisorinfo.sec.gov. In 2012, Washington state regulators fined FSIC $25,000 and suspended its then chief executive from any management role for 12 months. The regulators found FSIC employees had made inadequate disclosures and misrepresentations about fees and sold what the state deemed unsuitable investments. FSIC and its employees neither admitted nor denied the findings. The firm's CEO at the time has since left. In 2017, FSIC's brokerage unit consented to a censure and $15,000 fine from the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, a Wall Street watchdog, for failing to maintain sufficient net capital. FSIC neither admitted nor denied those findings. 8 of FSIC's advisors have disclosed events and regulatory filings available elsewhere on the SEC's site. One paid $50,000 in 2004 to settle a customer complaint over a risky bond. Another pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor count of battery in 1993. A third resigned from his prior firm in 2017 after he allegedly violated the firm's policies on trust accounts. FSIC didn't respond to requests for comment. Form CRS was supposed to cut through the dozens of pages of other disclosures and ought to summarize them accurately, so this kind of inconsistency strikes me as a huge fail, said Nicole Boysen, a business professor at Northeastern University who studies the financial advice industry. Missing misdeeds. Financial firms are supposed to tell clients whether they or their employees have any alleged past misconduct, but many failed to do so in the newly required report. Customer Relationship Summary Responses. Source: WSJ Analysis of CRS Disclosures Note, based on forms filed as of July 2020. 4,876, 1,841, 1,332, correctly reported no past events disclosed, past events incorrectly reported, no past events didn't answer the question. If firms are opportunistically omitting information, then the new form may be giving a false sense of security to investors, said Professor Boysen. That's potentially incredibly harmful to consumers, and the SEC may have compounded the problem it was trying to fix. Infinity Financial Services Advisory of Oakland, California, said in its form dated June 2020 that we do not have legal and disciplinary events. Even so, regulatory information displayed by the SEC at advisorinfo.sec.gov shows that 17 current Infinity employees have disciplinary or legal histories, not counting personal financial problems. Among them, 5 have been fined, censured, or suspended since 2015 by FINRA. Regulators disciplined those advisors for practices including allegedly forging signatures, mismarking trade orders, and engaging in unauthorized trading. None of the advisors admitted or denied FINRA's findings. 10 were terminated by former firms for, among other claims, allegedly impersonating a client or failing to disclose prior infractions. I'm not looking to not tell the public, said Greg Gilbert, president of Infinity. This document isn't the end-all and be-all. It's not a summary that's trying to hide anything. He said the no response on his customer form was an oversight mistake. The day after Mr. Gilbert spoke with the Journal, Infinity filed a new form with a yes response to the disciplinary question. Mr. Gilbert said none of the problems the advisors had at their prior firms have recurred at Infinity. Kate Investment Advisory Incorporated of Motunda, GA, said in its form dated June 30th that the firm had no legal or disciplinary events, but it failed to disclose that some of its employees did have legal or disciplinary issues, as shown in regulatory disclosures displayed by the SEC on advisorinfo.sec.gov. Among the 10 employees at Cape with a disclosure history was Michael Lovett, formerly Cape's chief compliance officer. His role was to help the firm follow rules meant to protect investors. In 2015, FINRA fined Mr. Lovett $5,000 and suspended him from any management role for 6 months after finding he had permitted a Cape employee to misappropriate $107,000 from a client, even after the advisor admitted forging the client's signature. That advisor was later banned from the securities industry. Share your thoughts. Would you knowingly do business with a financial advisor who has a legal or disciplinary history? Join the conversation below. Mr. Lovett said in an interview that he discovered the case, brought it to FINRA's attention, and worked closely with the regulator to make sure no clients were harmed. FINRA disciplined Mr. Lovett twice before for allegedly failing to enforce rules to protect customers, with a total of $25,000 in fines in 2007 and 2003. Another Cape employee, Paul Jacobs, was suspended from any management role for 6 months by FINRA in 2016. The regulator alleged he hadn't stopped brokers at a prior firm from generating more than $1 million in commissions by churning or rapidly trading customers' accounts. Mr. Jacobs was brought into the prior firm to communicate with FINRA and to help close the firm down, he said in an interview, and we did that. Both men consented to FINRA's sanctions without admitting or denying the allegations. James Webb, Cape's chief executive, said matters. Lovett and Jacobs will no longer be registered with the advisory firm as of September, although they still do work for Cape's brokerage arm. Mr. Webb said the two men had worked part-time in more of a consultant role rather than as public-facing advisors. There's not any attempt to deceive or defraud the public, said Mr. Webb. Cape intends to be continuously adjusting its Form CRS as a living, breathing document that will grow over time, he said. In mid-August, Cape changed its response to the disciplinary question to yes. Write to Jason Zweig at Intelligent Investor at WSJ.com and Andrea Fuller at Andrea.Fuller@WSJ.com.
Great. I think that last sentence closes it out well. It takes a while to get these investors to admit. Anyway, what do you think? Would you knowingly do business with a financial advisor who has a legal or disciplinary history? My opinion on the matter is felonies, no. I'll leave a comment below. That is the end of this video. Sorry for the delay. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment as you see fit. Just setting up our next article. It's a Sunday night article, off-duty section of the Wall Street Journal. Seasonal fish. We just started the grill, cut up the vegetables. Right here at my desk, working through a few things, but we got this tomato limb, and as you can see, it's starting to root. It's just a broken limb. We're gonna see if we can get this rooting in some soil. And let me water one or two things, and then we'll get to the article.
Thoroughly dry fish and season it all over with salt, pepper, sumac, and 1 tablespoon cumin. Slice zested orange into thin rounds and half the rounds. Stuff fish cavities with a few orange slices plus cilantro and parsley stems. Set fish aside. Make the sauce. In a food processor, combine 1 teaspoon cumin, orange zest, cilantro, parsley, scallions, sunflower seeds, coriander, vinegar, and jalapeno. Pulse to combine. With motor running, slowly add 1 cup olive oil to form a drizzly consistency. Season with salt and pepper. Transfer to a serving bowl. Soak a paper towel with olive oil and grip with tongs to oil grill grate well. Drizzle olive oil all over fish. Lay fish on grate and grill over indirect medium-high heat until flesh cooks through and skin blisters. 4 to 5 minutes per side. Toss radishes with salt and a drizzle of olive oil. Grill radishes over medium-high heat until they char in spots. About 3 minutes. Arrange fish on a platter and discard stuffing. Arrange radishes around fish. Serve with bowls of sauce. Grilled flatbread and lemon wedges. 36 p.m. Eating directions. Preheat oven to 500 degrees. In a medium bowl, season squash with salt, pepper, and 1 tablespoon oil, and set aside. In a small bowl, toss corn with salt and 1/2 tablespoon oil. Dust pizza dough and work surface liberally with flour. Starting at center of ball, stretch dough to form a 14-inch circle, evenly thin across and a bit thicker at edges. Brush an inverted baking sheet with olive oil and place the stretched dough on top. Drizzle dough with olive oil, season lightly with salt and sprinkle liberally with Parmesan. Distribute ricotta and olives across dough, then use the back of a spoon to flatten and spread olives. Season liberally with pepper. Scatter squash, corn, and half the herbs over the dough, making sure toppings don't pile up. Finish with more Parmesan, a drizzle of olive oil, salt, and more pepper. Transfer baking sheet with pizza to bottom rack of oven. Bake until crust browns, base crisps and cheese bubbles. About 7 minutes. Carefully remove hot pizza from oven and top with more Parmesan, herbs, and a drizzle of olive oil. Serve immediately with a crisp summer salad.
online commerce and decentralized offices where success has redefined the business world for a long time to come. By Greg IP and Angus Lyons. September 4th, 2020, 1:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Last year, Domino's Pizza Incorporated began testing a new service to time customers. Upon arrival, you check in via the Domino's app on your phone with text message, and an employee deposits the pie in the trunk of your car. You never make contact. Then the pandemic hit, and suddenly customers either couldn't or wouldn't enter stores. Domino's quickly rolled out car-side pickup to its stores. It is one reason why the pizza delivery giant thrived during the pandemic. Its sales and stock price surged while other restaurants struggled. The company's best position for the COVID era had technology that allowed them to adapt quickly to changing times. Touchless transactions, robotics, online commerce, or the infrastructure needed to support a decentralized workforce. They are emerging as winners in an economy where customers and workers must avoid contact, offices are empty, and travel is limited. Even as the economy slowly returns to normal, those business models may continue to define and reshape the business world for a long time to come. That is because many changes brought on by COVID-19 are starting to look permanent as customers, workers, and companies actually prefer the new ways of doing things. The shift to internet commerce, already underway before the pandemic, will stay. Companies who sent workers home may keep the arrangement because it can raise productivity and cut costs. Once niche services like telehealth and online education that came into their own during lockdown will be more important in the future. Yet not every company will successfully negotiate these transitions, and not every company will have to. There are limits to how far digitization and decentralization can go. After an initial rush of enthusiasm for work from home, many firms have found it makes collaboration, recruitment, and integration of new employees hard. And people are social animals who crave the in-person experience, whether that means going to the theater, a restaurant, or a doctor. Even Domino's acknowledges that there is still something special about interacting with customers in the old-fashioned way. There's something to the actual experience of a pizza handoff that is a personal connection, said Dennis Maloney, the company's chief innovation officer. That will probably come back. Few industries have suffered more during the pandemic than restaurants. More than 15,000 restaurants have failed during the coronavirus pandemic, according to statistics from Yelp's website. NPC International, the Pizza Hut and Wendy's franchisee, and California Pizza Kitchen have filed for bankruptcy protection. Sales at stores open of recent year plummeted 37% in the second quarter from a year earlier, according to Black Box Intelligence, which tracks the industry. Domino's, however, didn't have those problems. Its U.S. sales in the same period leapt 16%. In part, it was lucky. It has little dime in business. But it has also perfected order in and delivery through intensive innovation. While many restaurants depend on multiple systems from outside suppliers for technology such as online ordering, Domino's developed its own single proprietary point-of-sale system for all of its stores. There are now more than 6,000 in the U.S., 94% franchise owned. All that work for the past decade has got us to a pretty good place for using technology to pivot to a new function on the fly, said Mr. Maloney. While the pizza is made by hand, everything before and after that stage has undergone relentless innovation. Since 2007, the range of channels through which to order digitally has steadily expanded via desktop, then mobile, apps for the iPhone, iPod Touch and Android, Samsung televisions, Apple Android and Apple smartwatches, Twitter and text with a pizza emoji, Amazon Echo, Google Home, Slack, and Facebook Messenger. Mr. Maloney said order time reached its minimum with zero-click ordering. Open the app, do nothing, and in 10 seconds your favorite pizza is ordered. All were developed to make ordering and delivery faster and more convenient. And because digital ordering obviates the need for cash to change hands, it also aided in physical distancing when the pandemic began. Digital ordering is key to growth for food service establishments because it yields valuable data for better targeting customers and expedites pickup, already under development at the company's Innovation Garage in Ann Arbor, Michigan. GPS order tracking, introduced late last year, was rapidly expanded so that customers who didn't want to interact with the driver could confirm the driver was in front of the house. Other Domino's innovations also came in handy. One of its lowest tech features is a cardboard fold-out pizza pedestal, which drivers can place aside to avoid contact with customers. It also contracted with a manufacturer to supply its stores with devices adapted to carrying pizzas, and is working on driverless pizza delivery vehicles, which would remove the possibility of it in contact with a human being. Healthcare, unlike retail, was relatively resistant to digital delivery before the pandemic. Patients still generally saw the doctor in person. One important reason was financial. Fee-for-service insurance plans made it harder to bill for telehealth than in-person visits, discouraging providers from offering them. Many providers had to scramble to offer telemedicine options when the pandemic made in-person visits difficult and the federal government relaxed restrictions on billing for telehealth. Kaiser Permanente had a head start. Why? Because it never faced the same disincentives to invest in telehealth. The Oakland, California-based nonprofit is both insurer and provider. Members pay a flat monthly premium that covers all care delivered by Kaiser's own doctors, pharmacists, therapists, nurses, specialists, and hospitals, in person or via telehealth. Our business model is made for this technology, said Arthur Southam, Executive Vice President of Health Plan Operations for Kaiser Permanente. In the 1990s, Kaiser opened call centers through which members could make appointments or talk to a nurse or doctor 24 hours a day. Last year, they handled 50 million calls from Kaiser's 12 million members. In the 2000s, Kaiser implemented electronic medical records throughout the organization and created a web-based portal through which members could get advice, check their records, and with the spread of high-speed broadband internet, consult a nurse or doctor. Still, last year, video represented less than 1% of scheduled visits throughout the Kaiser network. Telephone represented about 16%. When the pandemic hit, Kaiser's volume shifted dramatically. In April, 74% of its visits were by telephone and 7% via video. By comparison, 44% of all Medicare fee-for-service visits that month were via telehealth, according to a federal study. As restrictions have lifted, in-person visits at Kaiser rebounded to 44% of the total in mid-July, while telephone receded to 42%, as video continued to climb to 14%. Even after the pandemic passes, we think telehealth will continue to play a huge role in how we provide care, Mr. Southam said. People have become much more used to using a digital portal to get services, decide what they need, and really help themselves get to the right care. An on-call doctor responding to A2AN telephone call can access the same records as the patient's regular physician and instantly order lab or radiology tests or prescriptions. A patient can show his primary physician enrolled using his smartphone, who can then schedule a follow-up with a dermatologist if necessary. For routine monitoring, patients can take their own temperature, blood pressure, glucose, and oxygen levels with instruments provided by Kaiser or a smartphone app. Kaiser found 85% of patients completed cardiac rehabilitation with remote monitoring compared with 50% when they had to travel to in-person checkups. Telehealth could reduce capital outlays in waiting rooms, examining rooms and parking lots, saving time and money for both patients and providers. Mr. Southam said, the nuts and bolts of telehealth come to full life when you think, how can I rethink my underlying consumer interactions when I'm not depending on two human beings in the same physical space? Robotics and artificial intelligence were already performing a growing range of tasks more cheaply and reliably than humans. With the pandemic, they demonstrated another advantage. They don't spread the virus. One company that learned this lesson was Stanley Black and Decker Incorporated, which invested heavily in systems of autonomous robots in the months before the pandemic. Also known as cobots because they operate alongside shop floor workers, each system includes a robot equipped with 3D sensors and designed to stack boxes of finished power tools coming off the assembly line. A mobile robot then delivers the pallets to nearby distribution centers, replacing forklift operators. By chance, multiple systems were slated to roll out in mid-March at the company's 345,000 square foot plant in Fort Mill, South Carolina, said Sudhi Bangalore, the company's global vice president overseeing technology innovation. The plant makes drills, saws, and wrenches for the North American market under the Craftsman, DeWalt, and Mac Tools brands. corporation for a total of $1.5 million. The South Carolina planned from shutting down at the height of the outbreak. That enabled the company to seize on a sudden surge in demand for handheld power tools as homeowners with extra time on their hand stoves in home improvement projects. In July, Stanley reported that U.S. sales of its tools and storage products at retailers such as Lowe's, Home Depot Incorporated, and Amazon.com Incorporated hit an all-time high in the second quarter. The company is on track to beat its best-case scenario for 2020 revenue, CEO James Lorry said in an earnings call. Many companies and their employees turned to telecommuting by necessity during the pandemic. Some discovered it had advantages, higher productivity, and lower costs, such as office space. But over time, its most important edge is likely to be the greater access to talent when geography is no longer a constraint. This isn't a new insight. The information technology outsourcing industry figured out decades ago. The companies would often employ thousands of workers in big call centers with dedicated high-speed data lines in places like India or the Philippines where wages are lower. They are a model of how a decentralized workforce can become a strategic advantage. IT outsourcing has evolved from relatively simple tasks to much more complex software development. EPAM Systems Incorporated has honed this model. Founded in 1993 by Arkady Dobkin with a business partner in Minsk, the capital of their native Belarus, the Pennsylvania-based software and engineering company sought to bridge the shortage of software talent in Western Europe and North America with the ample supply in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union. Now it has 32,300 professionals spread across its offices, some with just a handful of employees around the world. They design software systems for businesses, from ticket booking in the travel industry to conducting genomics analysis in biotech. There is little correlation between the location of its employees and its clients. The former Soviet Union accounts for just 4% of sales, but 68% of employees. Today, EPAM developers scattered across more than 160 offices in multiple time zones using Microsoft's collaboration software. Teams routinely work on a single project. For example, developers in Hungary, Belarus, Ukraine, and the U.S. are working on booking platforms for a major online travel company. This turned out to be optimal for the world of COVID-19 with its restrictions on physical presence, travel, and immigration. When we had to convert to remote, we were already partly there, said Chief Marketing Officer Elena Schechter. They were already in different time zones, not at the next desk or in the same city or country. Those stay-at-home orders forced EPAM's developers to relocate from offices to homes. Work proceeded uninterrupted on most contracts. After a dip in the second quarter, EPAM expects revenue to resume growing in the third quarter. While COVID has disrupted demand, the supply of engineers and computer scientists is usually the bigger constraint for IT services, said Jason Kupferberg, who covers the industry for Bank of America. Work from home could be a boon by opening up a bigger range of talent for IT consultants. In that, EPAM might have an advantage, he said, a good reputation among recruits and a lower than average attrition rate. Mr. Dawkins said he sees a completely different level of opportunity for a diversified workforce. Another boon for EPAM, he said, is that many companies, having succeeded at work from home, are more comfortable working with developers based overseas. McKinsey & Company has estimated that global output could be significantly increased simply by better matching talent to jobs through internet-based platforms. Christy Johnson, who left her job as a consultant at McKinsey when her daughter was born, said many talented professionals are overlooked because they can't work 60 to 100 hours a week out of offices in New York or San Francisco. She started Artemis Connection, which provides business strategy advice to mid-sized companies to tap this underutilized pool. All 40 of her employees work from home, from California to Wisconsin to Turkey. If you go to non-urban areas, there's amazing talent hanging out, she said. Write to Greg IP at greg.ip@wsj.com and Angus Lawton at angus.lawton at wsj.com.
Well, there you go. Went from Domino's to Kaiser to Stanley Black & Decker to anyway, I guess this is the new economy. What do you think? Would you suspect that these companies would have done well? Would you have bet on this beforehand? Or how do you think this affects the bottom line? Leave a comment below. All right, folks, I've been out this probably about an hour. I'm going to just make sure the feed is correct and everything's functioning appropriately, and hopefully we can get some more content out next week. Thank God we were able to do a live stream more than 3 minutes. Thank God. Remember to like the channel, like the video, subscribe to the channel,